During the Biden presidency, statues came down, Confederate generals removed from pedestals, founding fathers who owned slaves taken off display, schools renamed, buildings rechristened. The cultural landscape shifted. The message was clear. We will no longer honor those who oppressed. The past was wrong. We are correcting it. Now, during the Trump administration, those statues are going back up. The names are being restored. The monuments are returning. The message is equally clear. This is our heritage. Good or bad, it is ours. We will not allow anyone to impose their views on what we should honor or reject. Same country, same history, opposite conclusions. And here is what strikes me. Neither side is backing down. Neither side sees room for compromise. Neither side believes the other has a legitimate claim. I'm Mucho Galinda, and this is the Third Voice. Today I'm not going to talk about a Supreme Court case. I'm going to talk about what's underneath every Supreme Court case. Because until you understand this, you can't understand why America feels like it's tearing itself apart. And you can't understand why the Supreme Court has become the most important battleground in American politics. Let me describe something you already know, but may not have words for. There are two Americas, not North and South, not rich and poor, not black and white. Two visions of what this country is and what it should become. These visions are incompatible, and the fight between them explains almost everything happening in American politics right now. Let me show you what I mean. The first America believes this country is a covenant, a specific thing with a specific identity. This America was founded by European Christians who brought with them a civilization, a moral order, a way of life. That civilization built the Constitution, it built the institutions, it built the prosperity. In this America, there is absolute truth. Right and wrong are not matters of opinion. They are revealed in scripture, in tradition, in natural law. The Constitution protects that moral order. Diversity in this view is not strength. It's a threat to cohesion. The federal government is not a protector. It's a threat to self-governance. States should control their own destiny because local communities know their values better than distant bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. Outsiders can be present in this America, but the culture is not negotiable. You can come here, but you assimilate. You adopt our language, our customs, our values. You don't change them. You join what already exists. This America says, we were here first. We built this. It's ours. We will not apologize for it. When statues come down, this America feels erased. When traditions change, this America feels attacked. When newcomers demand inclusion on their own terms, this America feels invaded. And when courts impose values from above, values this America never voted for, it feels like tyranny. The second America believes this country is an experiment, not a finished product, a work in progress. This America was founded on an idea that all men are created equal. That idea was imperfectly realized at the founding. It excluded women, enslaved people, those without property. But the idea was planted. In this America, there's no absolute truth handed down from above. Morality evolves as understanding deepens. What was acceptable in 1776 is not acceptable now. That's not weakness, that's growth. The Constitution, in this view, is a living document. It must be interpreted in light of changing circumstances. The founders could not have imagined the internet, nuclear weapons, or genetic engineering. We must apply their principles to our world, not freeze their world in amber. Diversity in this view is a source of strength. Different perspectives make better decisions. A country that draws talent from everywhere outcompetes a country that draws only from itself. Government is not a threat. It is a protector of minorities from local majorities, of individuals from state overreach, of rights that should not depend on which state you happen to live in. Everyone who contributes belongs equally. There is no real American based on bloodline or birthplace. There is only commitment to the shared project. This America says, we are becoming. This is ours to build together. When statues stay up honoring enslavers, this America feels erased. When traditions exclude, this America feels attacked. When newcomers are told to assimilate or leave, this America sees its founding promise betrayed. And when courts strike down protections for the vulnerable, it feels like regression. Here's the problem. These two visions cannot be reconciled. America 1 wants to preserve. America 2 wants to transform. America 1 looks backward to a golden age that must be restored. America 2 looks forward to a promised future that must be built. America 1 says, we were great, we must return. America 2 says, we must progress. And the word great itself is contested. When America 1 hears make America great again, they hear restoration, pride, a return to strength and clarity and order. When America 2 hears the same words, they hear exclusion, regression, a threat to everyone who wasn't included in that past greatness. Same words, irreconcilable meanings. When America 1 sees a Confederate statue, they see heritage, ancestors who fought and died, history that belongs to them, complicated and imperfect, but theirs. When America 2 sees the same statue, they see treason in defense of slavery, a monument to cruelty, an insult to the descendants of those who were enslaved. Same statue, irreconcilable meanings. This is why the monument wars feel so vicious. This is why every cultural flashpoint, from statues to school curricula to pronouns, become an existential battle. Because we're not arguing about policy anymore, we're arguing about reality itself. We're arguing about what America is, and there's no compromise position between preserve and transform. No middle ground between this is sacred and this must change. This divide maps onto the land. America 1 dominates rural areas, smaller states, the interior, places where the population is stable, homogeneous, rooted, places where families have lived for generations, places where everyone knows everyone, places where change feels like loss. America 2 dominates urban centers, coastal cities, big cities, places where the population is transient, diverse, mobile, places where newcomers are the norm, places where change feels like energy, growth, possibility. Look at an electoral map. The coasts are blue, the heartland is red. Cities are islands of one America surrounded by seas of another. And here's what makes this structural, not just cultural. The Senate gives equal power to Wyoming, 580,000 people, and California, 39 million people. That's by design. The founders wanted small states to have a voice, but it means America One has disproportionate power in the Senate. The Electoral College amplifies this. Presidents can win while losing their popular vote, and have twice in the last 6 elections. And Supreme Court justices are appointed by those presidents and confirmed by that Senate. So America One has structural advantages that allow it to control institutions even when it represents fewer people. America Two has demographic momentum. More people, more growth, more diversity, the rising generation, but institutional disadvantage. This is why every Supreme Court nomination becomes a war. This is why every case feels existential, because the court is where the two Americas fight for control of the country's future. And right now, America One is winning that fight. Let me show you how this plays out. Every major Supreme Court case maps onto this divide. Affirmative action. Should the government consider race to remedy past injustice? America Two says yes. You can't fix race-based harm with race-blind policy. History matters. Context matters. Pretending the race is fair doesn't make it so. America One says no. Color blindness is the principle. Treat people as individuals, not group members. The Constitution doesn't permit racial preferences, even benevolent ones. Abortion. Who decides? America One says states. Moral questions belong to communities, not federal courts. Let the people vote. America Two says individuals. Bodily autonomy is a constitutional right. Some things shouldn't be up for a vote. Religious liberty. Where does it end? America One says it doesn't end. Religious conviction is foundational. It trumps anti-discrimination laws. You cannot force someone to violate their faith. America Two says it ends where it harms others. You can believe anything you want, but you can't discriminate in the public marketplace, even for religious reasons. Immigration. Who belongs? America One says those who are similar to the existing culture. Immigration should be controlled, limited, and filtered for compatibility. America Two says those who contribute to the evolving project. Immigration is what makes America dynamic. Diversity is the point, not the problem. Federalism. How much power should states have? America One says maximum. States are the true expression of self-governance. The federal government should be limited to its enumerated powers. America Two says limited. States have historically used power to oppress. Slavery, segregation, voter suppression. Federal power protects against local tyranny. Every single one of these debates is the same debate. Preserve versus transform. Covenant versus experiment. Which America are we? The court doesn't just interpret law. It chooses between visions. Let me come back to the monuments, because they are not really about history, they're about identity. When you tear down a Confederate statue, you're saying, this man does not represent who we are. His cause was evil. We reject it. When you put that statue back up, you're saying, this is our story. You don't get to erase us. We decide what we own. Both sides believe they're defending something essential. America Two says, how can we honor traitors who fought to preserve slavery? Their monuments belong in museums, not town squares. America One says, how can outsiders tell us what to do with our history? These were our ancestors. This is our land. We decide. and is what neither side fully grasps. The other side is not evil. They are operating from completely different understanding of what America is. If you believe America is a covenant, a specific inheritance to be preserved, then tearing down monument is an attack on your identity. If you believe America is an experiment, a project of ever-expanding justice, then keeping those monuments up is a betrayal of your values. Same action, opposite meanings. This is why reconciliation feels impossible, because we're not just disagreeing about what to do, we're disagreeing about who we are. Let me say something that will make both sides uncomfortable, because I don't belong to either America. I came here from somewhere else. I see both from the outside, and I see blind spots on both sides. America One's blind spot. The original America they want to preserve was never as homogeneous as they imagined. It was always contested, always diverse, always evolving. It was built by people who didn't look like them, often against their will. The traditional values they defend were themselves once radical innovations. Religious liberty was radical. Democracy was radical. The very idea that ordinary people could govern themselves was revolutionary. And the Christian moral order they cite was used to justify slavery, to justify segregation, to justify the exclusion of Catholics, Jews, and others who didn't fit. They want to preserve something that never quite existed the way they remember it. America Two's blind spot. The pluralism they celebrate requires something to hold it together. Pure diversity with no shared values is not a society. It's a marketplace. It's individuals pursuing their own interests with nothing binding them to each other. Moral relativism, taken to its extreme, cannot condemn anything, including the intolerance they oppose. If all values are equally valid, you cannot say some values are wrong. And the federal power they trust to protect minorities can just as easily be captured by those who would oppress them. Government power is a tool. It serves whoever holds it. They want openness without limits. But openness without limit is not sustainable. Here's what I've learned from watching both Americas. Both have legitimate concerns, and both refuse to acknowledge the legitimacy of the other. America One is right that tradition matters, that communities have the right to preserve their way of life, that not all change is progress, that rootedness and continuity have value. America Two is right that justice requires change, that excluded people deserve inclusion, that the way we've always done it is not a moral argument, that the arc of history should bend toward equality. But America One becomes dangerous when preservation means exclusion, when our heritage means your subjugation, when tradition becomes an excuse to freeze injustice in place. And America Two becomes dangerous when transformation means erasure, when progress means contempt for those who came before, when inclusion becomes coercion and diversity becomes conformity to a new orthodoxy. The honest truth is that both sides are partly right and partly wrong, but neither side can admit it, because admitting it feels like surrender. So why am I telling you this? Because you cannot understand the Supreme Court without understanding this war. Every case I cover on this podcast, every opinion we read together is a battle in this larger conflict. The justices themselves are soldiers in this war. They don't admit it. They talk about precedent and original meaning and constitutional text, but they are choosing between visions of America And when you read their opinions, you need to see that. You need to see what's underneath the legal language. You need to see which America each justice is fighting for. Not so you can pick a side, but so you can understand what's actually happening. Because democracy requires citizens who understand. And right now, most Americans don't. They see the symptoms, the rage, the division, the sense that the country is coming apart. They don't see the cause. Two incompatible visions of America fighting for control of the same institutions. Now let me tell you something that might surprise you. These two visions of America, the covenant and the experiment, are not incompatible. They've coexisted for 250 years. The country didn't just survive the attention, it needed the attention. Think about it. Conservatism, at its best, protects what works. It values continuity, stability, the wisdom embedded in institutions that have survived the test of time. It says, don't tear down a fence until you understand why it was built. Progressivism, at its best, repairs what's broken. It values growth, inclusion, the moral courage to admit that the old ways served some people and failed others. It says, let's build systems that serve everyone. A healthy society needs both. Roots and reach, memory and imagination, preservation and progress. The tension between them isn't a bug, it's the operating system. So, if they're not incompatible, why does it feel like civil war? Because both visions have been hijacked by their most extreme versions. The reasonable conservative and the reasonable progressive still exists. They still exist. They are your neighbors, your co-workers, maybe you. But they've been drowned out by the loudest voices, the ones who've decided that coexistence is betrayal, the policy failures. And here's what no one wants to admit. The extremes didn't hijack the conversation through superior argument. They rose because the establishment gave them proof. Proof that the system wasn't working. Proof that promises were broken. Proof that someone else was eating the cake. Think about the last 30 years. Foreign wars that drained trillions while roads crumbled and hospitals closed at home. Trade deals that enriched shareholders and gutted factory towns. Bailouts for banks, bankruptcy for families. Tax cuts for the wealthy, wage stagnation for everyone else. Investment that followed the coasts and cities, while the heartland was told its way of life was obsolete. Politicians on both sides who spoke of unity while practicing abandonment. The populists, left and right, looked at this and said, the system isn't broken, it's working exactly as designed, just not for you. And they weren't entirely wrong. The establishment failed. The center didn't just erode, it hollowed itself out through policies that benefited the few and abandoned the many. People don't turn to extremes because they are stupid. They don't turn to extremes because they are hateful. They turn to extremes because the extremes name the wound. They say what the establishment want. You bake the cake, someone else is eating it. That's a powerful message. And it's partly true. Where the extremes go wrong is not in the diagnosis, it's in the prescription. They offer rage without repair. They name the betrayal but offer no path forward except destruction. The fear of replacement. And there is another wound, a deeper one that almost no one will address honestly. There are Americans who feel their heritage is being erased. Not just their jobs, not just their political power, their identity, their sense that this is their country, built by their ancestors, shaped by their values, belonging to them. They see demographics shifting. They see their majority shrinking. They see cultural institutions celebrating diversity in ways that feel like displacement. And they hear a voice, sometimes whispered, sometimes shouted, that says they are replacing you. The elites have a plan. They want to make you a stranger in your own land. I'm not going to dismiss their fear. It's real. It's human. It's the fear of becoming invisible in a place called home for generations. When you've always been the majority, when you've always seen your face reflected in every institution, watching that centrality fade can feel like death. Existential erasure. But I'm going to complicate it. Because the story of we built this country is true, and it's incomplete. Yes, white settlers, founders, pioneers, they built something real, but not alone. Enslaved black labor that created the economy, on indigenous land that was taken by force, with Chinese workers who laid the railroads, with Irish and Italian and Jewish who were told they weren't white enough until they were, with Mexican farm workers who fed the nation, with women whose work was uncounted and unnamed. The founding story centered white men not because they did everything, but because they controlled who got credit. The voices of others were absent. They were suppressed. The contribution weren't missing. They were erased. So, when someone says this is our country, they are right. And so is everyone else, where both sides go wrong. The fear becomes dangerous when it slides into, this country belongs to white people. It should remain controlled by white people. Others can be here, but they should know their place. That's not heritage, that's hierarchy. That's not preservation, that's domination. But progressives make their own error. In the rush to correct the incomplete story, they sometimes tell a new incomplete story. White people are the villains. The founding was only sin. There is nothing to honor, only crimes to confess. Correction? This isn't correction, it's inversion. And it does exactly what it accuses the old story of doing. It erases complexity. Yes, there was slavery. There was also the Declaration of Independence, written by a slaveholder who articulated ideals that would eventually undo slavery. Yes, there was genocide. There was also the Constitution, flawed, incomplete, but containing the seeds of its own amendment. Yes, there was also the long, painful expansion of we the people to include those who were originally left out. The American story is not a story of pure virtue, but it's not a story of pure villainy either. It's a story of a flawed, partial, sometimes brutal project that also contained the tools for its own redemption. Dismissing that, telling white Americans their heritage is nothing but shame, is not justice. It's a new kind of erasure, and it fuels the very backlash it claims to oppose. The third voice on identity. So what does the third voice say? It says, your heritage is real. Your ancestors did contribute. Your attachment to this country is legitimate, and so is theirs. The story you were told was incomplete, not because you were lied to out of malice, but because every group tells its own story from the center. The full story includes everyone, and the full story doesn't diminish your part. It puts it in context. You don't have to choose between honoring your ancestors and acknowledging others. You don't have to become a minority to share the country. You don't have to lose for others to win. Unless you define winning as exclusive control, then yes, you will lose, because exclusive control was never legitimate. And it's no longer possible. The question is not who owns America. The question is, can we learn to share it? Not share it like a consolation prize, where the real owners let others visit. Share it like a partnership, where everyone's contribution is counted, past and present. That requires letting go of something, the centrality, the default status, the assumption that American means one group first and everyone else second. That's a loss, a real one. But it's not erasure, it's not humiliation, it's not replacement, it's growing up. It's moving from this is mine to this is ours. And ours doesn't mean you lose your place. It means you stop requiring others to lose theirs. The third voice is restoration. So let me bring this together. The third voice doesn't replace left and right. It reconnects them. It says, both visions of America are necessary. Both are incomplete. The extremes have hijacked both sides. They've made reasonableness look like weakness. The establishment failed and gave the extremes their ammunition. The fear of displacement is real and must be addressed, not dismissed. The story of America belongs to everyone, and the full story is bigger than any single group. Most Americans are not extremists. Most hold both conservative instincts and progressive hopes. Most live in a middle that no longer has a microphone. The third voice speaks for that middle, not to create some watered-down compromise, but to restore the conversation that makes democracy possible. A conversation where we can disagree without sorting each other into black holes, where we can hold convictions without turning them into weapons, when we can finally tell the full story and build something together. That's not weakness. That's the only path forward. Now you see it. That's the war. Two visions of what this country is. Two answers to the question, who are we? And no compromise in sight. But wars are fought in battles, and the Supreme Court is where these battles are decided. Next, I want to show you one battle, up close, a case about college admissions, but really a case about which America we are. It's called Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard, the case that ended affirmative action. We're going to read it together, the majority opinion, the dissents, the arguments you've heard, and the arguments no one talks about. By the end, you won't need anyone to tell you who's right. You'll be able to decide for yourself. That episode is available right now. I'm Mucho Belinda. This is The Third Voice. I'll see you there.